UFC Noche, UFC 306, UFC what Sphere takes place this weekend, and in this video, I'm going to be giving you my exact predictions for how I think every fight in the card is going to play out. So without further ado, let's get into the picks. Now, as always, I like to look at my past week's performance to see what we can improve upon, and so we started the card 0-3. We picked the first three underdogs. Ramaska has no grappling. Budka, I'm sorry I did that. Demopolis, no grappling. Then we hit a 4-winning stretch. We hit Gabriel Santos, free. Andre Lima hit a 3-unit bet. Isaac Dolgarian, that was free. Didn't bet it. Chris Padilla hit a bet there. That was free. Then we hit the main card. We hit some bumps in the road. Trevor Peak. I don't know what I was... I don't know why. Cody Durden, thank goodness. He was looking a little weak in round one. This could have been a really bad week, potentially. It was, but it could have been worse. And then we got Kyle Nelson as the hammerlock. It looked like he could have maybe got a choke early on. And then Steve Garcia just extinguished him. And then Natalia Silva, that was free. And then Gilbert Burns, I picked an old man again. So we're trying to learn. But then, you take 2 steps forward, 3 steps back type of scenario. Let's see how we do on Noche. This video is going to be kind of short because at this point, the picks have to get better. So let's make them better. First fight on the card, we have Raul Rosas Jr. taking on Irichi Lang, and I see a lot of people taking Raul Rosas Jr. by submission. I can see that, but Irichi Lang hasn't really been submitted. He's not really prone to the submission at the UFC level. He's more getting to the decision. He's more, let's see, he got finished by a knockout. And for the most part, I think he's pretty durable to survive the submission. Obviously, I'm not going to pick Irichi Lang. He's plus 800. He's a Chinese fighter, and you know like how those Chinese fighters have been doing in the UFC as of late. Not a lot of good ones. And this guy is plus 800 against one of the highest rising stars in the UFC, in the Sphere, for the first fight of the night. Rosas, number 1, is not losing. Number 2, I don't think he's going to actually find a finish. I think it's going to be more pressure than people think. The cage is big. You're going to hear me say that a lot this video. The cage is big at the Sphere. So for those reasons, I think Raul Rosas Jr. will amass 13+ minutes of control time on his way to a decision, which you can get for plus 460. And then at the end of the video, you're going to see my bets for this fight as well. Raul Rosas by decision. Fight in the card, we have Edgar Chairez taking on Joshua Van. Now, Edgar Chairez is plus 200 in this matchup. I am taking him because a multitude of reasons. He has a 7-inch reach advantage. Okay, that's huge. This is flyweight, and I remember Joshua Van, when he fought Charles Johnson, after he got knocked out 2 months ago. 2 months ago, he got knocked out. People were saying, oh, they should make an atomweight class for Joshua Van. He's so small. Well, guess what? He's still small, okay? Edgar Chairez is going to be the second best person he's fought in the UFC up until this point besides Charles Johnson. He has no one really on his resume besides Zhalgas Zhumagulov in a fight that he potentially should have lost a split decision. So Joshua Van does have good boxing. If they get up close, I can see that working out for him. But ultimately, I think Edgar Chairez, he has hands. He dropped Tatsuro Taira in their fight, even though he lost the decision. He has great jiu-jitsu, not the best wrestling, but great jiu-jitsu. I think Chairez can actually find the chin of Van. I mean, if Charles Johnson can do it, I don't see why Edgar Chairez can't. And plus, it's UFC Noche in the Sphere, Mexican Independence Weekend. Chairez was scheduled to fight Kevin Borjas, and they slid in Joshua Van. I think this is all the stars are aligning for an Edgar Chairez win here. And if it gets to the scorecards, I can see some fishiness happening as well since he's Mexican. So for those reasons, plus 200, that's good enough for me. Give me Edgar Chairez by decision. Next fight in the card, we have Yasmin Uruguay taking on Ketlin Souza. Now, Ketlin Souza, in her last fight, I was actually tempted to take Marnik Mann. That's how low I am on Ketlin Souza. And then in Karine Silva, I definitely bet on Karine Silva. And then, yeah, I'm just not a big Ketlin Souza fan. She is going to be a slightly smaller girl here. She's going to have the less reach. Yasmin is a true prospect in the strawweight division. She has one of the most elite striking skill sets in the division. So for those reasons, I think she's going to pepper Ketlin from range. I think the only way Ketlin can win is if she completely tornadoes into the clinch, into the pocket, and gets a knockout there. I don't think that's going to happen. That did happen with Diana Belbita, I think. Or no, did I get that wrong? Denise Gomez, I get those two confused. So Denise Gomez did that. but I don't think Ketlin Sousa has Denise Gomez power. So for those reasons, Yasmin Uruguay minus 600 favorite. I'm taking her to get actually a late finish. Everybody's taking decision, but low key, I mean, she almost got Sam Hughes out of there, even though it was a decision. So I think Ketlin Sousa actually might be a rank below Sam Hughes. So for those reasons, Yasmin Uruguay round 3 KO. Next fight in the card, we have Manuel Torres taking out Ignacio Bahamondes. Now, at first, I was going to take Ignacio because of, he's a giant and he has more reach. But the more I look into it, okay, so he does have a 4-inch height advantage, but his reach advantage is only 2.5 inches. It's not the most. Manuel Torres relies on hunting into the pocket and forcing the fight. So if this is a pocket exchange, Ignacio is cooked. The only way Ignacio really can win this is if he keeps this at range, or Manuel Torres' 2 losses are by weird submissions, heel hook and knee bar. So if Ignacio Bahamondes can just shoot for a takedown and slip a leg lock. I did see some clips on his Instagram of him doing leg locks with Bilal Muhammad, so that could potentially be a path for Ignacio. But besides that path, and besides fighting a perfect rangy fight, I think Manuel Torres has every advantage to win this fight. He's the more potent finisher. He has subs and KOs, as does Ignacio, but he has subs and KOs at a high UFC level. He hasn't really faltered against anyone up until this point. I don't like the way that Ignacio takes punches. So, he likes to cover up. He shells up. Sometimes he just falls to his butt. And I think if he falls to his butt, I think Manuel Torres is going to round up a submission. So the reason I have submission here is because I believe that Manuel Torres will get the knockdown on Ignacio. But as for a knockout with the ground and pound, I don't really see that. I see more of, once it gets to the ground, Manuel Torres can wrap up a neck, wrap up a darce, wrap up an anaconda. So for those reasons, it is a flyer to take sub, but I'm going to do it. Give me Manuel Torres by round 1 sub. Next fight on the card, we have Irene Aldana taking on Norma Dumont. Now, this is the fight of the card. The fight. We have Norma Dumont, who's mainly a grappler who barely exceeds 40 significant strikes in her fights, going up against Irene Aldana, who's fought the best of the best at the women's bantamweight division, who's the better striker. And yeah, so we have the better striker versus the better grappler. Like I said earlier, this is going to be a big cage in the sphere. That's not going to help out grapplers. So already for that reason alone, I'm willing to take Irene Aldana. Now, another reason is people take Norma Dumont because she's younger. She's the prospect. But if you look at the age, Irene Aldana is 36, sure, but Norma is 33. She's already old in her own right, and she's aging too. The 3-year age difference isn't enough for me to be like, oh, let's take the younger person here. Now, it is women's MMA. You might just blindly bet the underdog. I tend to do that. Not blindly, but I tend to bet the underdog. Now, in this fight, they're both pick 'em. There is no underdog. Irene Aldana opened up as plus 140. Now she's minus 120. So even people other people that bet in UFC that know things, they saw Aldana plus 140, and they're like, jam that, because this fight's going to be razor close regardless. So I think Mexican in a close fight in the sphere at UFC Noche, can't go wrong picking that. And I think if Norma Dumont fails with takedowns, it's going to be Aldana's fight to lose. So for those reasons, I'm going to take Irene Aldana by decision. Next fight in the card, we have Rolando Rodriguez taking on Ode Osbourne. Now, Ode Osbourne is very chinny. He's very strange in the way he throws strikes. He leaves himself open to many KO blows. He's also prone to this getting subbed. There's a lot of things not to like about Ode Osbourne, but when he is put up against mid-competition, he tends to fare well. One of his only wins in the UFC is against Charles Johnson in a fight which is a split decision, number 1. Number 2, he probably should have lost. Number 3, it potentially was 1-1 heading into round 3. Then Ode got a nut shot. He took the full 5 minutes, regained his cardio, and won round 3. So he was kind of cheapskating his way to a win there. And then we look at Rolando Rodriguez. He's fought literally no one except cans. Even his UFC level win is against a can in Denise Bondar, and the only fight that he has at the UFC level that's not against Denise Bondar was the Contender Series in a fight that he lost pretty easily. So we don't really know what Rolando Rodriguez is. At minus 270, do not touch that. But since the line has since swelled all the way down to nearly a pick'em, that's when it's time to buy Rolando Rodriguez stock. He's 7 years younger. Yes, there's infinite question marks because we haven't seen him against good competition, but we know what Ode Osborne is. Chinny and prone to the sub. Rolando has great BJJ, numerous subs on his record. I think, and he got the sub against Dinis Bondar in his last fight. I think he can do something similarly here. So for those reasons, give me Rolando to get the takedowns, maybe get a knockdown, and find the rear naked choke submission in round 2. Next fight in the card, we have Daniel Zellhuber taking on Esteban Ribovic. So in Zellhuber's last fight, he fought Francisco Prado, who's an Argentinian wild throwing guy. And Esteban Ribovic is an Argentinian wild throwing guy. But the thing is, Ribovic is like 10 levels higher than Francisco Prado. I'm still taking Zellhuber to win. Zellhuber is a points magician. He has a 8-inch reach advantage here. He has a 3-inch height advantage here. I think he just has to keep this at range and he wins. If Esteban tries to flurry into the pocket, he can just circle away and regain his posture there. This is going to be, like I said at the beginning of the video, it's going to be a big cage in the sphere. So that's going to favor the rangier fighters. For those reasons, I think I've said enough. Zellhuber by decision is the play here. Ribovic does have a path to victory. He has mostly finishes on his record. So if he can find a knockout, maybe that can happen. But we haven't really seen Zellhuber in horrendous positions besides on the Contender Series against Lando Vannata. No, not Lando Vannata. Lucas Almeida right here. So other than that fight, and he was able to weather the storm against Lucas Almeida. And I think Lucas Almeida is pretty similar to Ribovic in the fact that they're like wild swinging guys that press forward. So for those reasons, give me the rangier guy. Give me the Mexican in the sphere yet again. Daniel Zellhuber by decision. Next fight on the card, we have Brian Ortega taking on Diego Lopes. I've seen enough. I'm taking Diego Lopes round 1 KO. I've already broken this fight down in the past. And I was on Ortega. I believe Diego Lopes is a guard puller. I believe Brian Ortega can have top pressure. I believe all those things. And I believe Ortega's BJJ might even be better than Diego Lopes's. However, with where they are in their careers, Brian Ortega looks awful on Twitter. He looks absolutely horrendous in his pictures. He had to pull out of their last fight from weight issues, even though they changed it from featherweight to lightweight, and then he still pulled out. Not a big fan of that. He separated his shoulder against Yair a year and a half ago. Then he sprains his ankle before the fight against Yair this year. Then he has weight issues. Just a whole lot of things. Not good. So for those reasons, not the best breakdown. But I have to go with the rising star, Diego Lopes, to just do what he's been doing, and that's get a round 1 KO finish. And that brings us to the co-main event of the evening. We have Alexa Grasso taking on Valentina Shevchenko. And it feels like up until this point, a lot of these picks have been very straightforward. I feel very out of my norm, right? Like, okay, let's just go really quickly through what we've done so far. So, Rosas or Richeleng, usually I pick Rosas. CHEEWEEWEES Van, probably usually pick CHEIREZ. YASMIN Ketlin, I'd usually pick YASMIN. TORRES Ignacio, I feel like normally I pick Ignacio, but I'm trying to rewire the things in my brain. So I'm taking Torres there. Dumont Aldana, I feel like I would take Dumont, younger grappler, but I'm trying to rewire things. I'm taking Aldana there. Rolando Ode, I feel like I would take. He's just a tasty dog, but we're rewiring. We're not going to just take dogs. Zellhuber Ribovic, I feel like Ribovic is a sneaky dog play, but like I said, we're tossing and turning, the A plus B equals C in the old noggin. We're taking Zellhuber there. Ortega Lopes. Normally I'll take Ortega, but I just feel like I need to change something fundamentally about the way I approach picks. So that's why that brings us to the co-main event, because usually I would pick Shevchenko, Shevchenko in the first fight was winning up until she did a spinning kick, got caught, rear naked choke. Shevchenko in the last fight, she would have won if Mike Bell didn't score around 5 of 10-8 for Grasso. If he doesn't do that, Shevchenko wins 49-48 on 2 judges' scorecards. So usually I would take Shevchenko. Both women in this fight can wrestle and grapple each other. We've seen in the first 2 fights that they both have tried to do that to each other. And Shevchenko has had success herself wrestling and grappling Grasso, even though Grasso is the one that actually has the submission over Shevchenko. Okay? And then in the striking, I think Shevchenko's striking is actually slightly better than Grasso, although Grasso has been getting better since she's been training with Diego Lopes, has those boxing combinations, she flows in flurries, and she's good against the clinch. So these women kind of cancel each other out, but the fact that Grasso is I'm just going to name all the outliers. Grasso is the sitting champ. Grasso is younger by 5 years. Grasso actually has a finish win over Shevchenko, whereas Shevchenko does not have a win over Grasso in 2 fights yet. And it's in the sphere in Noche. It is a big cage, which actually might favor Shevchenko to fight from range and just win a points decision. But I feel like if it actually gets to the scorecards, there's a high likelihood that Grasso just somehow wins a 49-48. Now, I do have a pretty large wager on Grasso. Might not be ideal, considering that my logic isn't all the way there. But I just think that when it comes down to it, Grasso is going to be grittier. Grasso is just wants it more, and this is her time. Sometimes the pick doesn't always have to make logical sense, okay? Shevchenko should really be the pick, but she's not. Grasso to win by decision. And that brings us to the main event of the evening of UFC 306, of UFC Noche, of UFC Sphere. O'Malley versus Merab. I'm taking O'Malley. We're getting an early KO. Merab has been chinned against Marlon Moraes very early. Merab has been chinned by Henry Cejudo very early. All Sean O'Malley has to do is find the button early, and I think he can get Merab out of there. Now, Merab has not actually been straight up knocked out. He has been wobbled to the point of being knocked out. But I think in this one, O'Malley has the tools. He has great knees up the middle. We saw it against Cheeto. He has great counters. He has great shots going back, which we saw against Sterling. I think everything lines in Sean O'Malley's favor to get this knockout W here. Obviously, Merab can win by 5 rounds snooze fest decision if he shoots for 100 plus takedowns. But the Serra-Longo gym, number 1, has been mid lately. Okay. Number 2, yes, Aljo did look good against Calvin Kattar, but he hasn't looked good besides that. Charlampos Gregorio, mid. Dennis Bazuchka, mid. Now we have Merab, like the last hope for Serra-Longo. I don't know if he's going to get the job done. And the last time I will say it this video, the cage is big. Not going to favor grapplers and wrestlers. So, give me O'Malley to be and new at UFC 306. And new. And still. Please no and new. And then before I let you guys go, here are my bets for UFC 306. We have a 3-unit max slammer, Finn's Hammerlock on Sean O'Malley. I got him at plus 126. That's why I'm considering him for the Finn's Hammerlock. It's an underdog. I know he's minus 140 now, but you snooze, you lose. Then we have 2 units on Alexa Grasso, minus 130. Like I said, the logic might not all be there, but I think she takes home the W. Rolando Luis Rodriguez, I got a quick 2 units on him. The line has gone to a point where I think it's okay to bet him at minus 144, so there's that. Irene Aldana, probably not my best bet. Probably shouldn't have done that. She was plus 140. Now she's minus 114. It feels pretty sheepish, but I think she's going to take home the W. And then we got Edgar CHEEWEEWEES, plus 190. Felt like I had to put something on that. I think he's just rangier, longer than Josh Van, and I think Josh Van isn't all that. I don't know. Even though I was super high on Josh Van before, I'll stand here and say it. Josh Van, I put him in a chalky parlay with C-Rod, and both lost. So there's that. And then we have another 2-unit play on Rosas versus Richie Lang over 1.5. I just don't think Rosas is going to completely steamroll a Richie Lang in 1 round. I think it's going to take at least 1.5. So these are my bets. Thank you. That brings us to the end of another episode of Finish Chats. I hope you enjoyed this one. Make sure you leave a like, comment, subscribe. Let me know in your comments, my comments, who your favorite underdog this is of this week is. Jeez. Woof. All right. Sphere. Let's go. Have a great one, you savage.